All right. Problem number 2. At 5:30 a.m., a freight train leaves St. Louis towards Chicago, traveling at a constant speed of 80 kilometers per hour. On a parallel track, an express train leaves St. Louis at 6 a.m. and travels at 100 kilometers per hour and arrives in Chicago at 11:30 a.m. When the express train arrives in Chicago, how many kilometers is the freight train still from Chicago? All right. Well, let's deal with the express train first because we're given its rate and we're given the time it took, right, from 6 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. So that's 5.5 hours. And we know that distance is equal to rate times time. So let's just deal with the express train first. Express train. All right. So we know the distance that the express train has traveled, I'll just call it D1, is equal to its rate, which is 100 kilometers per hour, times 5.5 hours, right? Oops, not K. 5.5 hours, right? Because it's traveling from 6 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So that's 5.5 hours. So we've got kilometers per hour times hours, which will give us kilometers, and so that ends up being 550 kilometers. Okay? So now we know how far it is to Chicago, at least according to this problem. um, so the express train traveled from St. Louis to Chicago in 5.5 hours at 100 kilometers per hour, so it has to be 550 kilometers to Chicago. All right, so let's deal now with the freight train. Oops, freight train. Okay, we'll call this D2. Let's figure out how far it travels. Now it got a head start. It started at 5:30 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. So it actually traveled for 6 hours at 80 kilometers per hour. Okay, so actually we have everything for that as well. Times 6 hours. All right, so how far did it travel by 11:30 a.m., which is the time that we're interested in, right? Because that's the time that the express train arrives in Chicago, and we want to know at that time how far is the freight train away from Chicago. Okay, so at 11:30 a.m. the freight train has traveled for 6 hours at 80 kilometers per hour, so it has gone 480 kilometers. All right. So, and we know Chicago is 550 kilometers away, so if we subtract those two, we just get 70 kilometers. So the freight train's still 70 kilometers away from Chicago at 11:30 a.m. when the express train arrives. Okay? So there you go.